welcome everybody to the tasting with Romerick, Domaine, Chavy, Chouet. Just before we introduce Romerick properly, we'll introduce the United Cellars team tonight. Of course, we have Jane Moore, the head of events here. Welcome, Jane.
Evening, everyone.
Alistair Cooper is back. Alistair is our Master of Wine and European wine consultant. He was the man who brought Romerick's wines over to us. And welcome, Ali.
Morning, evening, afternoon, whichever it may be, wherever you are.
All of the above.
Yeah, nice to be back again. It's been a few weeks since the new world, old world debate. So it's nice to start the day with some of Romerick's cracking wines.
Excellent. And I'm Luke, one of the wine brokers here. Now, by way of introduction to Romerick, Romerick chose to become a winemaker at the age of 12, training with his godfather, Francois Moukoussi, in Meursault. He has done stints at in South Africa, Greece, and also the Languedoc. And in 2014, became the head winemaker at just 22 of Chavy Chouet, becoming the 8th generation in that winemaking family. He quickly moved from selling most of the fruit to bottling nearly everything. And we're very excited to be able to show you these wines this evening. So welcome, Romerick.
Welcome. Hello.
So just a few bits of admin moving forward. Firstly, for those who've been to our tastings before, you'd know this as a regular feature. It's the Wheel of Wine quiz. So between each wine that we taste, we launch a quick quiz question. Basically, just text in to the number on the screen there with your name, email, and the number of the answer that you think it is. One correct answer gets you 3 entries into the Wheel of Wine. An incorrect answer gets you 1. Obviously, being a slightly smaller tasting this evening, there's a good chance that you might be in for the win, which gives you a $50 credit for your next United Cellars purchase. So good luck with that. Now, I should say again, because we're a little bit of a smaller tasting this evening, questions, comments, tasting notes are all very welcome. Feel free to keep your mic unmuted and jump in at any point. We've got the chat box also, if you'd like to type in your questions. And I know that we have a few questions that have already been sent in, which we'll get on top of as well. But that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Ali and Romerick to start on wine number 1, which is the Femlots. Ali, take us away.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for that introduction. Well, first of all, it's great to be here. And I think we need to go to, that's a rather interesting image that you've put up there, Luke. I think we probably need Romerick to explain a little bit about what this image purports to, because I'm not sure. Tell us about this, Romerick.
This is the web page from the Find Our Wines page on my website, which represents the monks. So the monk is related to the monopole of Meursault we have. That is a parcel that was historically planted by the monks of Citeaux. And voilà, that's the way we represented the export, because we are very we sell our wines mostly export all around the world almost. And I was just how do you say, clin d'œil, how to say,
I can't think what
something.
I don't know. My French isn't that good. Let's see. So is that you with the horse's head? Is that actually your body with the horse's head?
Oh, it's a friend.
It's a friend. Okay. So the horse. Let's think. The horse represents the horse working the fields, ploughing the fields. Is that right?
Exactly.
Pushing the monk towards the plain to sell the wines. That okay? Cool. I like it.
Exactly.
Very clever. Very clever. So Romerick, can you tell us? Obviously, Luke has mentioned that you started working at a very young age. You know, at age 12, you went to wine school. And just a little bit more background. Can you just give us a 2-3 minute introduction to the estate and to your role in the estate?
Yeah. Alors basically, voilà, we are a very classical family domain based in Meursault. But originally, alors voilà, we have roots going a long time before, and we have two sides of the family originally. So one side, Chavy from Puligny. So basically, my grandfather built most of the domain. And when he was 17, he took his bike from Puligny all the way to Meursault to find a girl with lots of vineyards as well. So it was a good move, though. That's why we have as much as Puligny-Montrachet and Meursault. And after, my dad took over after training as well in Australia also. And after he married my mother, who had vineyards in the family as well. So that's all the Reds. Yeah. But in the family, there was no wine grower. So in this family, so the Chouet family, they were butchers, but they still own vineyards from before. So after everything was reunited, and then we had, I think, around 10 hectares, and I bought 5 myself.
You bought 5 yourself?
A few years back when it was still possible.
A few years back. Well, it must have been a long time ago because it's been expensive.
No, 10 years.
Okay, wow.
10 years ago was still doable. Today it's craziness.
It is crazy, isn't it? So you went, Luke mentioned that you went from selling, obviously you say you were butchers and weren't involved in the wine industry. So you were selling all of the grapes to, it was Bouchon, I think, wasn't it? You were selling all of the grapes.
The wines, the vines, the parcels were leased to somebody else. Yeah,
they were leased. Okay, and then it was when it was your father that started to decide to make the wine himself.
Voilà. So my grandfather, for 50 years, he farmed. He made the wine in his own cellar, but he was really not interested in the commercial part of the job. So he sold all the wines ready to bottle to Bouchard Père et Fils in Beaune.
Okay.
And after, my dad, he wanted to make his own wine, etc. So he bought the place we are in today. He started to bottle slowly from 5,000 bottles to 10,000 to 50,000. But he was a little bit maybe less ambitious. So he still sold half of his grapes every year. And when I started in 2006 to work full time with him, I already had a lot of contacts because of my trainings abroad. So I met a lot of people, etc. So after the demand was important enough to bottle everything. And we moved from selling to 10 countries to almost 50 in a few years.
That's interesting because normally, and I hope everyone's already drinking the wine and tasting the wine because we'll get there in a second. But I think this is a really interesting point because I think you export, is it 80 or 90% of your wines, which is really quite high for Burgundy, isn't it?
Mm.
And you do that because you want to. What's your main reason for wanting to export? Because it means you can travel, or because it means
also? So it's part of my. But first, it came like this, so I didn't really choose. I think it's because first of all, my dad had a different way of selling the wine. So he had a lot of private clients who came to the Domaine every day, etc. And me, I was more interested in really farming and going outside, etc. So it was, to me, it was nice to export. Secondly, yeah, I wanted to sell in the as many countries as possible, to have the peoples to know the wines everywhere.
Yeah.
And also, it's nice because I can go to most places, even if I didn't yet. But I go where I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then,
yeah, it makes sense to me. I think it's great to see that to be export driven. It means you can be in the vineyard. You don't have people every day knocking on the door,
Voilà.
and
Exactly.
to spread the risk. That's great, and we look forward to having you in Australia. I'm sure, and hopefully I look forward to getting to Australia soon as well.
Yeah,
So
I've never been.
well, soon we'll sort that out. When we can travel, we'll go together and we'll have some fun. With Ron, looking at this, can you tell us? We should probably start looking at the first wine, but just briefly tell us, looking at this map, where we are and a little bit about Femelot, the first wine that we're trying.
Alors, globally or this parcel in particular?
This one, so I think we've got Femelot 2019, as I think that's our first wine. Everyone's got that. So if you could tell us, a little bit about the wine itself, about where it comes from and what makes it special.
Do we have any chance to just zoom a little bit or not?
Of course. Do you want to zoom into the Femelots or into Polini more? Okay.
No, we can stay like this actually.
Yeah. Okay. And I also have a map of the vineyards as well, if you'd like.
So maybe you can go back a little bit and after we can zoom.
Okay.
Voilà. Alors, Puligny. Alors, we are on the Femelot. Alors, maybe a zoom just a little bit more. Sorry, I'm very focused on the.
No. Perfect.
Voilà. So here we see all of Puligny. So from the left, on the left, this is the hills. So where the parcels are steep.
Yeah.
And voilà. So basically, to know about Puligny, it's around 250 hectares. We have all the best parcels on the hills, obviously. What you need to know about Puligny in particular is that it's a village that is constructed first and planted for the lower part, where the water in the ground is very high.
The high water table, yeah. Okay, so the high, that's just in English. The water table is very, very high in Puligny, and when we get to Mercedes, it's very low in Mercedes, so very different. So that's what Romeric's trying to say with the high water table.
That's why in Puligny you won't find really good cellars, or even none, because you cannot dig underground. And for all the plain part, the flat part of Puligny, so where the Appellation village is, there's lots of water. So Puligny has always been known to be a village that produces a lot.
So you have more water in the soils. Essentially, you have the lower down, so where we are with Femelot, there's more water in the soil, so it's more productive. So you get a bigger yield. So it's okay.
Until 10-15 years ago, in Puligny, they have a mentality of farmers, like really old school.
Yeah.
So until recently, they were really interested for some part in producing the maximum and everything. This has changed the last years for better quality. And then if you see from the hills going down, and then you have Village. It's going all the way to the road between on the left of Famelot.
Yeah.
So all this part is Puligny Village, but it's not great because it's a lot of clay, it's a lot of water, so it's not the best parcels. So you can see that Famelot is a Bourgogne Blanc from Puligny Montrachet. But when you get to the road, the good thing is that in this place, all the water is actually accumulating between the water table and the rain going down from the hills. But in this part, just after the road, there is a ditch where all the water is going away. So actually, the Famelot parcel is much better than the Puligny Village on the left side. I have one parcel there, and Famelot is always better because it's that's not it.
Oh,
it's got Famelot is better drained. Okay, so
voilà. So on the left side, you will find a lot of clay, very wet. It's not very interesting. But in Famelot, it's more drier. It's a lot of well, it's clay, but it's very sandy. So it's very well drained. It's always a parcel that is that makes small fruits with a good concentration.
Okay.
Alors, I think that's not the good street.
oh, okay.
Not the
A
right
little bit
street.
on your right.
It's there.
But it's from on the right. Voilà. It's not the main road. It's the small road on the right.
I see. Okay.
Voilà.
Okay.
If you
And
go,
so, okay. So you've got and it's a 3. Is it? Am I right in thinking it's a 3-hectare site, which is quite large?
yeah, we started with 1 hectare, and we always thought that the quality, the potential of Famelot for Bourgogne appellation was really interesting. So moving from there, I always focused to buy all the parcels next to it. So we moved from 1 hectare to 3 hectares within 10 years, I think. And also for the price of the land, of course, is very interesting.
Yeah.
So we bought 2 hectares was already planted or to replant.
Well, I mean, it'd be interesting now to see everyone's thinking. I'm tasting this wine, the 2019, and actually we'll talk maybe in a minute about 2019 as a vintage, because it's quite an interesting thing to talk about. My thoughts, and probably I'd love to get your thoughts on 2019. But this is a wine for me, and looking at this as a Bourgogne, this is so much better than people might expect it to be. I mean, with so much generic white Bourgogne out there, this really toes the line of showing quite how special it is for the price. What do we sell it for, Luke? I know it's about
$50.
Yeah, okay, so about £25. And it's just so drinkable already, even for it being a 2019. I find it really, really ridiculously approachable, but still with complexity. The nose is superb, and it's got that, it toes that line between richness and freshness extremely well.
Well, it's a parcel that is well, first of all, it's a blend of 4 different parcels within the same lieu-dit, same climat. So the age of the vineyard is from 15 to 75 years old.
Okay.
So we have the oldest parcels, who brings the concentration, the intensity, and then we have the younger parcel that brings more freshness. So voilà, the younger parcels until now were separated. And well, lately we have some warm vintages, a little bit of drought. So now we blend all the 4 parcels of Famelot. and it works well on those kinds of vintages. Voilà. Et after the principle, if we want to speak a little bit about the farming, the winemaking, voilà,
Romeric.
Yeah.
Sorry, Romeric. I'm keen to open up the floor and get some input from our guests.
Okay.
Michael, I hope you won't mind me picking on you initially. Now, if everyone wasn't party to our conversation just before we launched, Michael's actually in an airport lounge waiting to get a flight, but he's bottled these in half measures. So he could be part of the tasting, which hands up to him. I think that's an amazing effort. Firstly, Michael.
That's amazing, Michael. What are you in? Are you in Sydney Airport?
You're just on mute, Michael.
Oh, you're on mute, Michael.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, got you.
I think I'm on twice though. Hang on, I'll just get rid of one of them. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Can you hear me? You hear me twice?
We can hear you and see you, so that's all good.
Anyway, look, I'm in Brisbane Airport. I'm privileged to be in the Chairman's Lounge, and it's an amazing wine. Loving it.
You're tasting at the airport?
Yeah.
Nice.
Little bottles. That's commitment,
Okay.
Robert. That's what we call
Okay.
commitment. That's very cool. Did they let you through customs with little bottles of wine?
Sorry, say that again.
Did they let you through customs? You can go through.
Oh yeah,
customs.
no, we're in Australia. We can walk onto planes with liquids in unlimited amounts. We're quite lucky.
Domestic, it's fine.
And Ali, when you're in the Chairman's Lounge, you can do what you want.
Is that right? Yeah, it sounds very.
But to give it, I've got rid of one of my versions. I seem to be on twice. But look, just quickly, what I like about the first wine is its complexity, its richness. There's certainly no oak that's dominant. I like the fruit. I like the lasting. It tastes like in fact, I'll be honest, it tastes like no Australian Chardonnay that I think I could link it to. It's French. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's not. I agree with you. And it's very early in the morning here, so I'm just getting around to kind of appreciating it. But I think again, I agree with you. It's got that on the nose. There's something that I always find with Romeric's wines. And it's a word that that's used far too much with wine professionals, is minerality. I don't like to use this word so much, but it's always a hallmark of these wines, that real piercing freshness, particularly on the nose, weirdly enough. And actually, it'd be nice to hear Romeric tell us very briefly about your wine making with this wine.
Well, the winemaking is basically the same for every wine, from the smallest appellation to the other ones. But on this one specifically, it starts by very good farming with harvest by hand, obviously. So the thing is literally we pick by hand. After we press for 2 hours in a pneumatic press, and then we have the juice that is very cloudy, that we put for decantation in the vat for 24 hours. So all the big sediments and the lees goes to the bottom, and the day after we separate the clear juice from the lees. All the clear juice goes directly to the barrels by gravity, and we put to the barrels where the fermentation will start. So both fermentation will happen in barrel, and after we actually don't touch it at all. So we choose what's important for us is the right, when I mean right, I mean extremely precise amount of lees in the barrels. And then the barrels themselves, we pick with very lots of attention. So we only want the best. Since I started, we tried, I think, 20 different coopers, and I only kept 2. So it's a lot of barrels that went to the fireplace because it was crap. And basically, so literally, we have mostly old vines who makes grapes with good concentration, good maturity, and who makes juices that are already quite rich, developed, intense. So in the winemaking side, we tend to be very minimalistic and preserve as much the freshness on the other end. So once it's fermented, once it's wine, it just sits in the barrels. We top them every week for the barrels to stay full all the time. And after we don't do any batonnage. We just let it sit and age slowly. We want to preserve we want to preserve and focus on the purity of the wine. We want to preserve the natural CO2 carbonic gas made by the fermentation to stay in the wine until the bottling. And very good barrels, first of all. We have 2 things that are very important for us that can screw our wines and our work. It's the barrels and the corks later.
And Romeric, I'm sure that attention to detail is spread through the whole portfolio, and I know that we're starting to get slightly short on time, knowing that we have 2 wines to drink within about 30 to 40 minutes. So if it's okay, I'll stop you there and we'll move on to wine number 2. So feel free to start pouring. It's the Meursault up next, but as I mentioned before, we have a quiz question to get you going with. So Jane, if you can just move us on to the quiz. This is another image that maybe we can go back to. I don't know if you can get that one back up.
Horse is back.
Yeah, but let's get the quiz question done first, and then we can jump back to it whilst we're sipping the Meursault. So how long has wine been made in Burgundy? 500 years, 1,000 years, or 2,000 years? So just remember, text with the number 123 to the number on the screen with your name, email, and answer, and we'll get you entered into the Wheel of Wine. So good luck with that. Jane, can you just, well, actually, maybe we'll leave the number up on the screen. I'm really interested to know what was going on in that picture, though. Maybe you can just rewind us one.
I was gonna show that one after the quiz question there, but yeah, that was just another sort of I think attribute to the style of winemaking and things that I was going to get Romeric to comment on, but it's quite a unique image there. So if everyone can see that, another step up from the earlier image with the tarmac. So yeah, Romeric, do you have any comments on this one?
It's the same. We go back to we have the monk is always there. Because it goes back again to the beginning, also related to your question, because you asked for how long wine has been made in Burgundy. So they are not the first, but maybe the most important people who continue to plant the vineyards of Burgundy. So without the monks, we would be maybe doing absolutely nothing special here.
Great.
And then the other one is the horse playing music. It's it's a little
violin.
sign. Yeah, the violin is basically because we have worked with horses before. And it's a little thing regarding to how much bullshit it can be when it becomes too poetical in Burgundy with The horse is coming back. I tried for years and it doesn't work as well as a tractor.
Well, there we go. So of course the answer was 2,000 years. So well done to everybody who got answer number 3 there. 20 years ago, remains of a small vineyard dating back to the 1st century AD were found in Gevry-Chambertin, apparently. So well done there. But let's move on to the Meursault. So Ali, perhaps you could give us a brief introduction to why you think this wine is special, and you know, Romeric, feel free to jump in at any point.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'll the person to tell us about why this is special is definitely Romeric. But first of all, I couldn't get the 2019 here because it's all sold out. So from the importer here in the UK, but I've got the 18. So not exactly the same wine, but obviously not the same vintage. But one thing I hope that we can look at here is, and I'm going to ask Romeric's opinion, and it'd be great to get anyone's thoughts as well, is when we talk about Burgundy, there are stereotypes of certain villages that people talk about, and you will often hear people will say, Meursault is rich and buttery and nutty, and Pouligny is elegant and has gunflint and smoke and is sort of stony, like licking wet stones, these kind of things. And actually, I think there's some truth to the fact that Meursault can be a little bit richer, perhaps, and we'll talk, maybe that's got something to do with the water table, but I don't necessarily think that that's true anymore. And I think certainly when you taste Romeric's wines, certainly I wouldn't call the Meursault, and especially these wines that you make, rich and overtly heavy wines or completely opulent. I always see an elegance behind them. I don't know, Romeric, what are your thoughts on the stereotype of Meursault versus Pouligny?
Well, what you say is what we've heard for many years, and obviously it was true before. I think we in Meursault used to do powerful wines, rich wines, and I think at the time people felt like they had quality for the money, I think. So the wines used to be rich, oaky, buttery, nutty, and everything. The trend has changed a little bit. My father, for the example, was it was the style of wines he liked. So he liked to harvest a little bit late. Didn't like acidity. He liked a lot of new oak.
Yeah.
But lately, people have started to be more interested in finding the right balance. So naturally, in Meursault, there's not much water in the ground, so it's always smaller grapes than Pouligny, for example, and you have always more skin of the grapes comparing to the quantity of juice. So the wines have always been more dense, more concentrated. When Pouligny, like I said before, in Pouligny we have bigger grapes with more juice. So the wine seems more floral, more elegant. They seem to need more time as well to be showing well. Lately, I would say from the last 20 years, people have worked on finding the right balance, having more acidity, having more purity in the wines, more precision. To my own opinion, I think that sometimes today it's going a little bit maybe on the other side. So what I mean is that the people pushed from being too buttery, not enough acidic, to over acidic and over green.
It's interesting, Romeric, seeing as we're talking to Australians, I think that's a really interesting point, because that's exactly what happened in Australia. back in the previous, the old style of Australian Chardonnay until about 2005, 2006 was this very oaky, heavy, rich wine, which was very fashionable. And then what happened was there was a big movement. So there were very, these big wines, and the pendulum went totally the other way. And people started picking very early, looking for this kind of Chablis style. And there was a whole movement, and it went too far. People really went too far. And the reality is somewhere in the middle. And I think maybe that's the same with
the balance. That's the I think it's problem for me because I think the appellation is a little bit losing its was renowned for because we are little bit transforming the appellation Meursault because some people there is like they used to be a demand, I think, and the style is moving to Sauvignon-like Meursault. I think it's dangerous for the appellation, but too citrusy and too acidic is not what it's supposed to be.
It's not a real representation of more.
No.
So how about this? So this Clos de Corbeau Citeaux is a monopole, and the monopole means that it's just complete. You're the only person that makes this wine. Is that right? That's what a monopole
owns this parcel, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, this parcel is first of all, it's very special for us because it's a monopole, so we own all the parcel that is named like this. It's very central in Meursault, just 200 meters from the Domaine. And the history of this parcel, where it was planted by the monks when they were still when they still owned 99% of Burgundy. Lost it at the Revolution, was sold to somebody else. And we got it actually. It's a 1 hectare parcel, so it's very, very big for Meursault because it's normally you have parcels up to half an hectare or something.
Yeah.
But this one is the biggest parcels of Meursault that we have. And basically, I was a friend of the family, an old lady, an old widow. She didn't have any child or anything, but my grandfather, he used to go and help her to work in the vineyards.
Okay.
And when she died, she gave it to him. So it was at the time a very bad gift because the vineyards was the wine impossible to sell. That's in 1860, so it's another time. Wine grower was almost ashamed to be a wine grower because he was poor like Maximum. But 160 years later, it's a good gift. Alors, it's a parcel of Meursault, right in the center. It's a clos, so it means it's surrounded by walls all around, 2 meters high. Alors, to say the name, the clos is the walls. That means the parcel is closed. And corvée means duty.
Okay.
And Citeaux is the abbey of the monks. So which means that's the clos where the monks used to go to work for their abbey.
And how about Romeric? A question for you. Often you hear in Burgundy, you hear people say that and I always find this really interesting, the effect of a wall. So when you have these parcels surrounded by a wall, it can really make a difference with the temperature within that vineyard. Is that true? Is that something you've noticed?
It's true if the walls are high enough.
Okay.
Because normally in the clos, most clos have little walls, like half a meter or something. Here we have 2 meters, so it's true that it's a parcel that is very protected from the wind. It makes a little bit like a oven kind. Okay. And it's always basically you see if I go look at the vineyards today, it's the only parcel that is starting to bud break.
Okay, so it's always early. It's the most
It's always
precocious.
the parcel that grows early, the earliest in the spring, and it's always the parcel that is also ripe the first. So normally we always start harvest there. And voilà. In this parcel, we have well, it's almost flat compared to all the other parcels we have from the hills. The soil is mostly clay and sand, and there is a river on the side. So the plants, they have everything they need to grow and develop quite well. So that's why it's a fast parcel. And after it's well, it's a parcel. It's a morceau that is a little bit like we said before, the stereotype of morceau from before, because in this parcel there is a little bit less acidity in the wine in generally. The wines, because of the clay, is always a little bit rounder, little bit richer. So it's what I call a little bit a morceau old school.
Okay.
Nice.
Where voilà, a morceau that is always easier to drink when it's young.
Yeah.
Voilà. Yeah.
Romeric, I'm really interested to again get our guest's opinion on this wine. Let's open the floor up to Stephen. I know, Stephen, you've been to Meursault and are fairly well versed in Burgundy. What are your thoughts of this one?
Look, I'm really quite keen to talk about the third wine. So when you get to it, I'd love to talk to it.
Okay, well, I like it.
we can
well,
do that. Should we move on to the third wine then, or what should we do?
Well, I just wanted to actually pick up on a question that Sean emailed us, and then perhaps we can move on, maybe even finish your glass and start pouring the Puligny.
Sure.
And I'm going to read it out to you, Sean. Read it out from Sean. What are the differences between the 2018 and 19 vintages in Meursault and Puligny Montrachet? He bought both of these vintages last year, but has cellared them and not touched them. So he's interested, Romeric, and I suppose Ali, also more broadly in Burgundy, to get an idea about vintage change and then more directly towards Romeric with the differences with these two wines.
Interesting. Well,
if you can answer that question in 30 seconds, you're far better than I am.
18 compared to 19?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Alors, we start in 17. 17, we had a lot of frost in the vineyards, so small production. So when we have a small production, we have the vines, we keep a lot of energy for later. Which means that in 18 we arrived with plants that didn't really had to consume a lot of energy in 2016 and 17 because we had frost and a small quantity of grapes. So we arrived in 18 with very strong vines, very good weather. So we had a very good flowering. So we had lots of grapes from the beginning. So it's a vintage with normal yields, so higher yields than 2019. In 2019, frost again, very small quantities, more concentration. So 19 would be a little bit more concentrated, more rich, when 18 was a little bit more easier to drink young.
And actually, I'm going to just say something on that. For me, and I'll try and keep this as short as possible, something that I found, so Romeric, I was in the Rhone in tasting all the 2019 Rhone Valley wines in October. So I was tasting everything from Gigondas, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, all the way up to Côte-Rôtie. And something that I found was astonishing was 2019 was a hot summer. And what was very surprising for me was the amount of freshness in the wines. And I know that I was covering those wines for Jancis Robinson, and I spoke with Jancis, and she said exactly the same about Burgundy in 2019, how really and amazing as well that the winemakers were very surprised at quite how much freshness there was in 2019, despite the heat. It was quite strange how that happened. Did you feel the same?
Yeah, I feel the same, but it's basically because we have the problem we have the global warming like everywhere, and we have a lack of water that makes the plants to stop the photosynthesis during the summer, which means that we don't have in the last 2 years, 2019, 2020, we don't have the technological maturity, because we have the plants who stop the photosynthesis late August. So they stop to mature technologically, which means that they keep a lot of acidity. And after we have a maturity by concentration, which means the juice in the grapes reduces. So we have the concentration, but we keep the high acidity that were in the vines when they stop to develop.
Is that high tartaric acidity rather than malic acidity?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So the malic acidity is lower. I'm just thinking this out, geek. Malic acidity is lower, and then you'll do the malolactic, so that will transform. But you've got higher tartaric acid, so you've got more tartaric acid and smaller juice, so because of the concentration of the berries. Okay, that makes sense to me. Interesting.
2019 was good. 2020 as well, in both colors, but it's last year we started to really see like the maximum the vines can get in terms of warmth and dry and drought. It starts to be problematic, I would say.
And I suppose that's where, sorry, Luke, I know you're keen to get on. Just last question. I suppose that's where older vines are better equipped to deal with less.
The older vines are doing great, and all the young vines are starting to die, literally die. So we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, Luke, over to you.
Sorry about chivying everybody. It's very interesting. And look, if we run over, it's absolutely fine. I'm just slightly conscious of Romeric's time as well, but I'm sure we can take it from there. So you may have seen the quiz question on the screen. We'll keep it up for another 20 seconds or so, just in case nobody has noticed it. The question obviously is, what percentage of Burgundy wine is classified as Premier Cru? Is it 10%, 20%? Or 30%. Jane, you were saying that there's been quite a few answers in there, so I'm assuming we can move on.
Yeah, just one more refresh, and I think we've got everybody good to go to wine number 3, to Stephen's delay.
Yeah, of course. So just to let everybody know, it's 10% across 640 Premier Cru vineyards, and obviously Grand Cru represents only 1% of about 33 vineyards across Burgundy. So well done if you got that. That's 3 correct answers into the Wheel of Wine. But we're going to move on to the Puligny Montrachet, which is wine number 3. So Romeric and Ali, I'll bring it back to you guys.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I'm back with. I'm using my Coravin again because it's so early in the morning. Romeric, there was a big debate here with some wine critics recently about, it was Jamie Good was saying that he didn't really agree with people using Coravins to taste samples and to what do you have a Coravin? Do you use it much?
I never tried.
You never tried it? Okay.
No, because we always finish the bottles immediately.
Yeah, well, I admire your thirst. I couldn't quite open 3 this morning, but anyway, there was a bit of a debate here on whether wine critics should be able to use their Coravins to use samples. But anyway,
it seems to be working perfectly if you have the use.
Yeah, I think they're great. Anyway, back to we've done with 2019, so we're moving through now to the Puligny, and maybe this is where maybe the wines will show the answer to to my question earlier on, where we expect this kind of caricature of Meursault to be rich and buttery, and actually surprisingly, you know, that last wine, for reasons that Romeric explained, is quite a rich wine. So does this Puligny being flinty and elegant and stony really ring true? Romeric, first of all, before we look at this particular wine, how would you describe Puligny, and then particularly this wine, Les Enseigneurs?
But globally in Puligny, I mean, when I think of Puligny, sometimes I almost think at two different villages, because the village appellation is very different to the Premier Cru and Grand Cru part.
Mm-hmm.
The Premier Crus and Grand Crus being on the hill, we can get sometimes the same figures as we have on the hills of Meursault.
Mm-hmm.
So if we go to the Folatière, my Folatière, for example, it's not what you would first think of Puligny, because it's also a parcel which is on the hills. It's very little clay and only limestones and rocks. So it's also a wine that is very powerful. It's very old vines as well. So it's full body. It's not what you would hear from Puligny globally. But from the village side, of course, then we make a little bit more yield. So we have wines that are not as obviously powerful. In Les Enseigneurs in particular, Enseigneurs is still, it's the beginning of the hills. It's mostly clay, sandy and rocky on the top of the parcel. So it's also a wine that is it's also a very old parcel, from 80 years old. It was planted 80 years ago. So it's parcel that has a lot of body as well, but from behind always a higher acidity. And it's always a Puligny that is a little bit more, as you said, floral, elegant. It's always a bit shy when it's young. So it's always a wine that takes a few months or a few years, depending the vintages, to open up. Not like the Meursault from before that is already showing well today. Well, it's to me a parcel that you should keep.
And this, looking at, when we were looking at the map there, am I right in thinking, so this is Village, this isn't Premier Cru, this is a sort of...
Well, it's a very interesting particularity of Enseigneurs.
It's next to Grand Cru.
Where it goes from Village to Grand Cru, so it's a good spot to make Village.
Yeah, so your Village, you're right next to what, Bienvenue, or you're right next to you're okay. So you order Bienvenue and Bâtard Montrachet. Okay.
Well, we are closer to Bâtard side.
Closer
so
to the Bâtard.
We are very close to the limit with Chassagne.
Okay, yeah, you can see, okay, on the border there. So yeah, has everyone seen that? This borders, and that's quite unusual, isn't it, to have a Village right next to a Grand Cru.
It's the only one case I know like this.
Yeah, there's not. I can't think of any others. So that makes it quite unique. And how different, actually, because this is something you hear. A wine that can be worth £50 can, you walk 10 meters that way and the wine is worth, £300. How different is the soil between, Bienvenue and or Bâtard here?
You can see Enseigneurs is a little bit wide. So the lower part is really a Village quality. But the first rows from the very top could be Premier Cru.
Okay, so you could make maybe 5 bottles of something. You could make half a barrel of what could be
something like this, yeah.
The
soil is very similar on the top.
Right.
Generally,
it's a gorgeous wine, and I'm just loving smelling this, but I want to get. I think Stephen's got something to talk about with this wine, haven't you, Stephen? Let's get you involved.
Thank you, Alistair. Yes, I have. I mean, this is a seriously impressive village level wine. It doesn't drink at all like a village grade. It drinks like a Premier Cru Plus. And it was really interesting to see exactly where the vines were. We've been lucky enough to walk. We've been lucky enough to walk this part of Pellini on a couple of occasions, and I think we might have walked right past these vines on our way to Bassage. So, yeah, I mean, I know exactly where we are, and I'm so impressed with this wine. It's extremely elegant. Where the first wine was fruit-driven, I thought the second wine was oak-driven. This one is just beautifully balanced. And to pick up on your point, Alistair, it does carry that flintiness, but it's got so much more going on. I mean, it's got so much going on with the fruit. You've got those stone fruits in play. You've got melon in play. You've got pear. There's just so much really. I mean, it's rich, but it's so nicely balanced with the flintiness. And then you get the oaks there, but it's not absolutely dominating. It's playing more a smoky role. And then on the palate, it's just full and rich and long. It's a wonderful wine.
Stephen, you're making me want to buy a case. Can we just get a little recording of you and send that to our customers if that's all right? I mean, that was a great review.
I think it talks to the real class that comes out of this part of the world, and I just feel these Chardonnays from here are just unmatched.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think when I first tasted Romeric's wines here in the UK, so Romeric's got a bit of a following here in the UK, and it was a fellow master of wine, Mark Andrew, who sort of introduced me properly to these wines over here, and I tasted them, and I've always thought exactly that. They're first of all, they're incredible value for money, but they really do tick so many boxes. And when we went to see Romeric, you know, we were astonished by, you know, throughout the whole range how good they are and how they really, as you say, this for a village, we've seen now, you know, where this is and you know quite how good it is, but it just ticks all of those boxes of as you say, of being mineral, of being flinty, of being stony, of being rich, and one thing that I think really stands out with your wines, Romeric, is the oak integration, and you've talked as well about how important the oak is for you, and you really can tell with these wines that the oak is just so framing the wine and delicate rather than being overpowering. So yeah, I think this 19 Pradini is superb. I totally agree with what Stephen said.
Romeric, I've got a nice quote. I don't know, another wine critic, Neil Martin. I was doing a bit of research on your on some of your wines. Great story here, which I'll share with everybody. He said, so to set the scene, he was in a restaurant in London. He said, my precious Porlac was corked. So I ordered a bottle of Domaine Chavy Chouet from the restaurant list. It was so damn delicious that I ordered another, emailed Romeric, and got a visit pronto. So I think that speaks volumes.
They're great wines. I'm really pleased that we could share these with you in Australia, and obviously Stephen's a big fan and will be stocking up on these, but I agree. And the other thing for me is as well, Romeric, I don't if you think this is a signature of all of your wines, but there's so much more to come from this wine, but it's already beautiful, it's already expressive. I probably will open this and drink this tonight. It's a shame because I'd like to save it, but is that important for you to have wines that are very approachable when they're young, as well as that can age? Or does
I think it comes automatically when you find the right balance. I want the wines they have to be good when they are young, obviously, to be good later. But it's true what you said. That also, I think we have a tendency lately, because of the trend about Burgundy and the small quantities and the high demand. I think most people tend to drink the Burgundies too early.
Yeah.
So if I can recommend just to the people today, it's try to keep, because I have every day I have people on the Instagram and everything, and they are like, "Oh, your 2018 Meursault Charme is so great," and so, and no, it's not. It will be in 5-7 years. I think people have lost they have never waited enough to know what a great white Burgundy is when it's mature, when it's ripe.
Yeah.
So try to keep a little bit.
Yeah, okay. We'll have to buy. There you go, Stephen. You have to buy a case and 5 years.
It's hard to blame people in the year that we've had that. You know, there's been lots of sitting and waiting. So you know, cracking into their nice wines, you can't really blame them.
Of course.
Romanic, just whilst we've got you, and I'm conscious of your time, so thank you. Sean messaged us with another question. And I wanted to wait until this wine to ask it because it kind of connects with Puligny Montrachet. Is there a connection between Chavy Chouet and the original Chavy family? I'm assuming there is from Puligny.
We are from Puligny in the beginning. We moved to Meursault in '94. So basically, in Puligny, I have one uncle and three cousins. So same family originally.
Nice.
Yes. Same family. Ah.
Amazing.
Well, that was it. Have we got one more quiz question? Or is that have we done?
No, that's it. I just had a quick one actually. I think we should maybe draw the wheel because I know that we're cracking on and we're a little bit over time. Give me 1 second and I'll pull up the screen here.
It's been fantastic watching Stephen, the Coolmars background. It was light a while ago. Now it's gone dark as the evening sets in. And I'm sure that these wines are going to get drunk tonight, judging by the reception.
That's well and truly the case. We're sitting here having, we're just about to have dinner. We're going to have a chicken pie with the Chardonnays. It'll be very nice, Alistair. Thank you very much.
Chicken pie, that sounds great. I'll go and have my croissant in a minute. But again, as we say, this is going to go pretty well with my croissant, so I'll be quite happy.
Yeah, good with the croissant.
Yeah.
So if you can see your name in there, congratulations and well done. We'll give it a spin and good luck to everybody. I can see that Danny has entered in from the Facebook group.
I was going to say, how does that work?
Oh, hey, look.
Danny's not here.
Oh yes.
He's been watching from Facebook, the Facebook stream. So he's been making a few comments as well. But
we'll be very happy.
he will be absolutely stoked because he joins. He was saying he has tried a couple of your wines and yeah, he's a big fan of these tastings. So he does come to a lot of them.
He does, doesn't he? Well,
Good
I think
stuff.
that you know, to sum up, I think that was great introduction to your wines, Romaric. I mean, there's so much we could talk about. There's so much I'd like to delve more deeply into. But what I love about your wines.
You have to come over.
Well, we'll have to come over, and then we'll have to get you to Australia as well. We'll have to get you to Australia. We'll go together, and then we can share these wines with Stephen and family and everyone else, in person. But I think these really show your touch on the wines, that they're beautifully elegant wines. And again, I'm going to say it, and I don't know if this is something you like to hear, superb value for money in the context of Burgundy. Burgundy is so stratospherically expensive. And specifically for me today, this Puligny as well has just shown it is exceptionally good value. And it's very rare to find that these days. So we might, if you can save some more wines to send to Australia, I think we might be looking to buy some more.
I'll see what I can do.
Well, with that being said, Ali, obviously you can see the options on the screen that we tasted today. We do also have a slightly larger portfolio of Domaine Chavy Chouet, including more Meursault and Puligny Montrachet. So we'll send some details to everybody tomorrow if you're interested in kind of exploring the range more generally. I know that Stephen has picked up a few already. So yeah, if you were interested in revisiting these ones though, obviously they're up on the screen there. Either scan the QR code or we'll send out a text tomorrow. You can just fire us back a reply as to what you would like. In terms of what we've got moving forward in online tastings, we've got Whiskies of the World on the 8th, a Malbec tasting because it's International Malbec Day on the 15th, and then a Tasmanian deep dive on the 22nd. So all of those look very interesting. I'm excited to be part of those.
And I just wanted to mention for the Tasmania deep dive, so Andrea Pritzker, she's actually curated that wine selection because Tasmania's one that's quite close to her heart for wine. So she'll be running the show for that one. She's picked out some cool wines, so that'll be really interesting.
Cool.
Fantastic. And then, yeah, if you're based in Sydney and are keen to join us face to face, we'd love to see you. We've got Tuesday tutorials on the 6th, sulfur and wine, the 4th, which is what is tannin, and then finally we've got desserts and fortified on the 1st of June. That's all from us. I think obviously I'd echo Alistair's comments there in thanking Romerick so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you
this
for
evening,
the
Romerick.
organization.
I think I can pretty confidently say that those wines were massively enjoyed. So thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Romerick.
Bye-bye.
Thanks
See you
for joining
later.
in. Yeah, see you soon.
Thanks, Romerick.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys. Take care,
We'll see you
everyone.
next time.
See you for the next tasting.